My best friend confessed to me that she likes me more than just as a friend. First, I would like to state that this specific incident happened 2 years ago. I have been friends with P for the past 6 years. We met at an all-women's college, in 2016, both 18 years of age, and I, being an introvert, didn't really open up to anyone during the first few days. Suddenly, P called me to her table and asked me if I wanted to join her friends group. She, extremely extroverted, had already made friends with 3 of them from our class, and I was also excited to make new friends. It was a 3-year course, and over the course of time, P and I gradually became really close out of all the others in our group. We used to share every little incident, every minute detail with each other. We used to talk for hours without running out of things to say, etc. etc. I was never comfortable hugging anyone in my life, but she kept assuring me that hugging her/us hugging or leaving little pecks on each other's cheeks sometimes weren't that big of a deal and that I shouldn't be anxious about it. She was always the one who initiated hugs, and she was the only one who left casual pecks on my cheeks whenever we used to hang out. I, personally, wasn't very comfortable with that, but because of her assurance, I never thought of it as anything odd. After the completion of our course, we stayed in touch with each other, updating each other of our lives almost every other day or at least twice a week. Cut to a year after our course got over, P and I were hanging out at my apartment, and we had some meaningful conversations about the future, and just everything in general. Suddenly, she confesses to me that she's been seeing me as someone more than a friend for the past 3 years, that is, right from the 2nd year of our course. She told me that she felt attracted both emotionally and physically towards me and had been feeling that way for a long time. She told me that she would like to have something more than just friendship with me. Initially, I didn't know how to react because this was completely out of the blue. But after a few minutes, I told her that it was totally cool, and I even let her know how brave it was of her to confess such a thing to me. I told her not to worry about anything because she was getting embarrassed and was regretting it immediately. I assured her that nothing would go wrong in our friendship and that I was grateful that she shared it with me. But, I also let her know clearly that I was totally straight and was never into her or any other girls my entire life. She seemed a bit disheartened but brushed it off aside and said it was cool. We still kept hanging out with each other once a while, having completely forgotten about this incident. A few weeks later, she called me out for shopping. It was for her sister's wedding and I had to go with her, even though I do sorta hate shopping. Once we came back to my place, she suddenly started talking about her feelings for me. It felt forced, like she was expecting something from me, as if, hinting at it would nudge me to say something that she wanted to hear. She kept going on about how I made her feel different and that she couldn't get over me. After a point, I told her that I wasn't comfortable talking about it. And she stopped. Again a few minutes later, out of nowhere, she says something along the lines of, "I'm afraid to even sit next to you because I don't know if I have the restraint that it takes to not take things further with you." I was shocked to my core. It was like a punch to my gut and I felt thoroughly hurt. And being the introvert overthinker that I kept thinking about all those hugs and pecks that she kept initiating with me throughout the years, wondering if she had other thoughts during those times, and I felt thoroughly betrayed. The rest of the day was awkward as F, and once she left, I was completely blank and empty from the inside. She reached home and texted me, asking if she had messed things up. But I couldn't bring myself to respond to that because I knew that she had messed it all up. And I didn't want to lash out at her at that time. It's been 2 years since, and I keep thinking about it. I keep replaying those incidents in my head and I wonder, have I handled it immaturely? Was I wrong to dismiss her like that? Should I have communicated better with her? Did I maybe overreact? She was my best friend for 4 years before this final incident happened, and, have I just lost one of the most important persons of my life? I keep wondering. Any advice on whether I should get in touch with her? Talk things through once again? Comment. I think that you handled it pretty well. That's a tough and awkward situation, but at least you weren't leading her on and let her move forward on her own path she may have needed. Not the commenter, but Imo, you were handling things perfectly up until you said you haven't spoken to her for 2 years. Obviously she wasn't handling the situation with the grace one would hope for, and she really needed to get the message about you not being comfortable talking about it. But a lot of people aren't their best selves right after being rejected, and that was your longtime best friend. I dunno, man. I don't think you should reach out while you're wondering whether you handled things immaturely or should have communicated better, but if you decide that those are the case and you regret them, then it might be worth it. Next story 2. Is it selfish that I do not want my fiancé financially supporting his mother's unemployed fiancé? Me and my fiancé, whom we'll call Joe, got engaged earlier in June this year and plan on getting married next October 2024 in Colorado. Everything has been going very smoothly so far except for the drama with my 60F mil. The issue? She's gotten engaged to a man from the UK that she met via LinkedIn, and he's trying to come over to the US and get a job. She has no money of her own and he's not well off either, so she's trying to get Joe to essentially financially support him while he finds a job. Some background: his mother is by no means a malicious person. She's very kind-hearted and naive, and it has led to some very poor decisions in her life. She's never been financially well off. She's worked at the same crappy warehouse job for over 30 years. She's always hated it but never did anything change things. She has little to no 401k because she took out a lump sum prematurely to help out a friend, and tends to give more money than she should to the church. She's been divorced twice, once when Joe was 2, and again when Joe was in his late 20s. She got screwed over in her last divorce and up until last year has been paying alimony to her ex-husband. Joe and I both own homes. Before we were dating, he was letting his mom live with him so she could financially recover. He loaned her $30,000 so she could pay off her debts, and she did eventually pay him back, which is good. When we did start dating, Joe moved into my house and his mom still lived at his house paying the full mortgage and utilities, which, since his house was bought during the recession and at a low interest rate, was still significantly cheaper than if she rented a one-bedroom apartment elsewhere. After we got engaged, Joe told her she could live there until April 2024 and then we'd be selling his house and also mine so Joe and I can buy a house together after we're married. She agreed and was fine with this. But then, she met this guy from the UK on LinkedIn and fell in love. We'll call him John, trying to become a US citizen. He's not well off financially either, but has this business idea for some portable medical device and wants to come to the US and find investors. She talks to him almost 24/7 via Zoom, and insists we do not tell anyone about him. It was only after they got engaged did she say it was okay to only tell Joe's biological dad, but still wants to be very quiet about the details. She does not have any close friends or activities other than Sunday church, so John's essentially become her world. Joe has also already given the okay for John to live at his house with his mother this October 2023, but still stayed firm that they would have to move out in April 2024. However, Joe is not increasing the rent, so John will be living at his house for the next 6 months free. This agreement was still okay on both parties up until this week. Suddenly John's mother talked to him saying that surprise surprise that John is having more difficulty than expected trying to find a job and get through the legal red tape, and if they can live in the house for an additional 6 months to a year. She also said that Joe should lower his expectations of John and that we shouldn't be buying some big expensive house. Joe told me about this whole convo and it led to a very ugly argument. I said that it feels like he's being taken advantage of by his mother, something both his biological dad has said and Joe has complained in the past too, but Joe now totally denies this and would not stop defending his mom. I said that I had no issue with him helping his mom so long as it was within our means, but I do not like the idea of us financially helping out a stranger we've only met in person once. The whole relationship is one huge red flag. He fired back that well, he won't be a stranger, he's going to be family soon. Next year they plan on getting married. To which I asked how that's even possible, as I have friends that have gone through this process and it took at the earliest 5 years before they could be legally married. Joe doesn't know either, but his mom sure thinks it's going to happen. In the end he agreed that it's best to stick to our guns and not let Joe's mom and her fiancé stay at his house no longer that April 2024, but we still have not talked to his mom about it. I'm so exhausted by the whole thing and it's made me question our whole relationship. I also am not a fan of the potential idea of constantly bailing her out every time she makes a mistake in spite of him telling her it's a bad idea. He still sees nothing wrong with the whole situation, and when I asked him if this is going to cause resentment he answered maybe. We've made up for now, but I'm still worried and not sure what to do or how to get him to understand that his mother is being taken advantage of, and by extension Joe too. Things were so perfect before, but I feel like this is ruining our whole relationship.